Hello. Welcome to the biggest project of our lives. I guess to be fair, it's the greatest blessing. A few years ago, in the midst of the most competitive housing market in recent history, my wife and I were presented with great opportunity to purchase our first home. Our house is a bedroom, 2 bath, 1,850 square foot Victorian, built in 1885. It's gone through a lot of changes, but it still has some great character, mostly on the inside though. The house layout remains original, although the kitchen and dining room have been switched. The house has a full unfinished attic and basement, which is pretty nice. The property has an original 140-year-old stone retaining wall surrounding the front and side yards. Along the entire length of the wall, there's a well-developed dwarf spruce trees. Coming to the front of the house, you can see the front yard. There's some nice hydrangeas and some other flowering plants. A little side yard over around the corner of the porch. These trees give a nice little break away from the property. Quiets down the street traffic as well. Over here we have a narrow walkway, side walkway up the side of the house. I'm trying to expand over to the right more here, where the property line actually goes back a foot or two. And this leads us into our backyard. It's not a huge yard, but it's pretty nice. It's manageable, and there's a lot of nice little projects that I have planned. My wife and I are thinking about doing. Back here, probably a greenhouse off the back of the shed, and maybe a little fire pit back here where I'm standing now. And that's the back of the house. So there could be possibility of expanding our deck. And that's where the greenhouse would probably most likely go. Plenty of room. It's my newly planted flower beds. Yeah. Definitely could make this a pretty nice living space back here. All that said, this house comes with all the issues of a 140-year-old house. Sagging joists, cast iron drain pipe, brass water supply, hot water radiators, no central air conditioning. The list goes on and on. There's some beautiful trim work that has been painted over and over and over again. And my feeling is that, of course, it's concealing lead paint. Some of the plaster and lath walls are cracked, but the foundation and structure of the house is actually in good shape, which we're pretty lucky. Ultimately, this is going to be a major project to get this house back to what it could be, or better yet, what it should be. I remember back when my wife and I first viewed the house, we noticed that there was a significant sag in the master bedroom. She said on the ride home, "If we buy this house, we'll have to fix this before we move in." Having previous construction experience, I said, "Sure, of course." For the weeks leading up to the buying of the house, I constantly was thinking about how I was going to get this done in 1 week. When we finally closed on the house, we were living in an apartment, which was pretty lucky. We had 1 week left on our lease to stay in the apartment, so during this week I tore out the flooring and subfloor to fix the 2-inch sag. There's no other feeling like buying a house, putting everything you have down on it, then walking in day one, plugging in a circular saw, and hacking into the floor. To be honest, I really didn't know what was going to happen. I thought, well, worst case scenario, the floor collapses and while I'm working on it, and we just go from there and figure it out. Thankfully, none of that happened. At first, I tried to save the hardwood flooring, as I thought it would. I thought it was still in pretty good shape. When I started to pull it up, I was faced with the reality, though. The flooring would split and crack no matter how gentle I was. Given the time frame that I had to work in, I decided to just rip it out as fast as possible and get to the subfloor. Once I got down to the subfloor, I noticed something very interesting. If you look carefully at the photo, you can see a square in the center of the room. It looks to be unstained, while the perimeter of the floor looks stained. I realized that this was not only the original flooring of the house, but a common practice back in those days. And see, the homeowner at the time would stain only the visible areas of the floor, not being covered by an area rug. I thought it was interesting. Back to the removal, though. So I decided that the subfloor was actually in really good shape. Lucky for me. Our second bedroom is almost as large as the master bedroom. I decided to lay out the subfloor in the same orientation as I removed it, so that I could reinstall it a little more easily. This actually worked out great and saved a lot of time. Given the size of the room and the access I had, getting a full-length beams to sister in place would be virtually impossible. So I decided to just reinforce the existing beams with 2x6 lumber. These 2x6s were glued with liquid nails, screwed, and with structural screws and nailed. Prior to the installation of the 2x6s, I set up a masonry line from corner to corner. I originally picked out the most level square spot, which seemed to be the perimeter, the outside perimeter of the house. And then I basically connected masonry line in a crisscross pattern and was able to level from that. No, I'm leveling the floor as a plane, but I'm not leveling it as all in one piece, if that makes sense. If you're thinking about doing something like this yourself, definitely you can do it. The only thing I would say is just to take your time and think everything through. Try to think a couple steps ahead, like, when you level your floor, where is that going to leave you at the end with your doorway, right? Or with your hallway? Is your room going to be at a height higher than that doorway threshold is going to be? So my mentality was, I want to keep it flat and level, but I want to taper that flat level plane down to the doorway so that it moves across the threshold evenly. So just keep things like that in mind if you're going to do this yourself. After we were done, I began to install the subfloor, and then that went very quickly. And then we chose a laminate, waterproof, backing attached flooring product, mainly because we have a dog, and the waterproofing and scratch resistance properties of that product were paramount to us. I think the final product actually looks really good, and I was able to do this in 1 week. One person, one room, 1 week. So it's definitely possible. So I wanted to give you all a short introduction to the house and the channel. My aim is for this to be a DIY/lifestyle channel. I hope you follow along with the projects. There's going to be a lot of them. I'm not sure if I will post once the projects are completed, or if this will be a weekly video release. Not sure about that yet. The project's going to be undertaken on a importance first, and then like timeliness, timeline second sort of pace. And if you want to see more of this little guy, follow along, subscribe. But I'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.